We are in middle of Torah Tet Vav in the Likutey Moharan, called Ohr HaGanuz, and we're up to the end of the Torah. We're up to Od Chet, part 8 in this Torah. In this Torah, Rabbi Nachman is explaining to us the formula of how we can merit Ohr HaGanuz, the essence of light, the essence of life, because life and light are synonymous. When we're speaking about light in the source of light, in the essence of light, when we're speaking of light in its spiritual form, in the way light is at source, light is a spiritual energy. Light, light is the physical light that we have and we experience is only in metaphor of, it's only a mashal for that spiritual experience. And that spiritual experience is the shining, the radiating of life energy that Hashem is constantly filling the whole universe with. That's what gives, that's the neshama, the soul of the universe. And so Rabbi Nachman in this story is giving us the formula on how we can experience the essence of light, light in its highest form, which is, as we're saying, the essence of life, life in its highest form. How can we experience that already now? Because that's something that is going to be experienced by the tzaddikim in the next world. And it's something that you can only experience if you are not limited by the physical world, by the confines, the limitations of the physical self, because it has no boundaries. This type of light and this type of life energy is eternal, it's infinite. And so it cannot be contained in any vessel that has limitations. It's beyond that. It's transcendent, and so you have to become transcendent on some level in order to merit that. And so this formula Rabbi Nachman gives us is to bring us to that transcendence. And the way we do it is by starting out with the Malchut, which is the lowest of all the sfirot, and the easiest to be disconnected and to be concealed in the darkness. Like the Zohar says, Ragleha Yordot Mavet, the feet of the Malchut are reaching into the depths of death. And that's why another name for the Malchut in the Zohar is Ilana Demota, the tree of death, because it's the tree that is found surrounded by death. Death being the klipot, the forces of evil, the forces of that try to bring a temporary existence to everything. They try to turn all of the eternal into temporary by bringing limitations. That's the whole aspect of Ayin Hara. Very, very important recognition. What's the numerical value of Ayin Hara? So Ayin is 130, and Ra is 270. Together that makes 400. Ayin Ra is the numerical value, the gematria of 400. And in the letters of the alphabet, the aleph represents the keter, and when you get farther throughout the alphabet, throughout the 22 letters, you're traveling down what's called hishtalshlut ha'olamot, right? The series of worlds, one leading to the other, and that is all represented in the 10 sfirot. From the keter, you begin in the keter, but then you make your way all the way down to the Malchut. When you get to the letter Tav from the alphabet, the final letter, that's represented by the Malchut. The letter Tav has the numerical value of 400. And as we all know, Esav also had 400 men with him when he came to see Yaakov, when he went out to war. It seemed like he was going out to war with Yaakov. That was the intention, right? And he had V'arba meot ish imo. He had 400 men with him. And the Arizal explains that the klipa, the tuma, the side of evil, the side of Esav, has 400 forces, or 400 forces of evil. And this is exactly the same number of the letter Tav, which represents the Malchut. And because the Malchut is found surrounded by that darkness. And that's the experience of Bnei Israel in this world, that we are surrounded by the 70 nations that constantly try to pull us, assimilate us, make us forgotten, and within them, within their darkness. And they try to steal away all of the light and all the energy that we have. And that's why you find many places throughout the world where there was a holy place of a checkpoint of holiness in this physical world, the places of the kotel, the places of kever Rachel, the places of of the tombs of great tzaddikim throughout the ages. All of the holy places, the greatest and the most holy places, Me'arat HaMachpelah, you find that you'll find a church in that area, and you'll also find a mosque in that area, because those are the two sides of the two categories of the klipa, the two categories of the forces of evil that try to steal from the checkpoints of holiness energy, which are really points of Malchut. They're points of the Shechina, where Hashem's light dwells in a greater concentration, is revealed in a greater way, and they try to steal away that energy, and that's why you find them in those places. And so that's the Malchut. So the Malchut is 400, and she's surrounded by the 400 forces of evil of Esav, and those forces of evil, what they try to do is they try to cause limitations. They try to take the eternal and make it temporary. They try to take the Malchut, which is the end, the far end of the 10 Sfirot, which are completely eternal, and the Malchut is eternal, and they try to take the Malchut for themselves and disconnect her from Hashem, and turn her into temporary, so to speak, so that it's a temporary Malchut, so that they will take the energy of leading and ruling and kingship and power and influence to be used by them here in this physical world in their temporary existence. And so they're causing limitations, and they're causing boundaries, and they're causing disconnection and fragmentation. And so the first point of the formula is to return the Malchut to Hashem. And the way we do that is by shifting the energy of fear and awe from the things of this physical world, from the things, all the significance that we've been giving to all the things of this physical world, and all the anxieties that we experience because of that, and all of the lusts and desires of the lower self connected to the things of this world. We now shift the focus back to Hashem. And we do that by a compassionate self-assessment and compassionate self-judgment, where we come to recognize how and to which degree are we in alignment with the fulfillment of Hashem's will, with the practice, with living a life of Torah and mitzvot. And by doing that, we are shifting the significance and the importance and the honor and the fear and the awe back to Hashem, and we're elevating the Malchut to a place of Daat. Now we are experiencing fear in an expanded state, in a state of knowing and being aware and conscious of Hashem's greatness. And in that state, we first bring the Malchut to the first level of knowing, and that's the first level of Daat, and that's the first level of Torah knowledge, because we said that the divine consciousness, the expanded consciousness, is synonymous with, it's the same thing as Torah knowledge. And in Torah knowledge, there are two types of Torah knowledge. There is the Torah knowledge that is contained in the books, in the Sfarim, that you can read it out loud, preferably. And there is the Torah knowledge that is it's a Torah way of thinking, which is the ability to build Torah from any experience and to find the Torah's sparks in every situation. So the first level of Torah knowledge is being able to contain vast amounts of Torah knowledge, remembering it, knowing it, and having it etched in your heart, inscribed in your heart. And that's called Sinai. And the extent that we have humility and we have dissolved our egos, that's the extent that we will have this tremendous memory, where our awareness will be able to contain all of these many details and remember them and know them. It's a knowledge that is constant. And so that's the first state of divine consciousness. It's called Sinai, and that comes from humility, and that humility is also achieved through the awe of Hashem. And the awe of Hashem is not just an intellectual. It doesn't come from just an intellectual knowing of Hashem's greatness. It comes from a felt experience of Hashem's greatness. And from there, we're able to now practice this use this divine consciousness, this Torah knowledge, and use it in our relationship with Hashem. Have that kind of fuel the relationship, so that when we come to dive into Hashem, we are experiencing Hashem's presence through that awareness, through that awe, and we're experiencing it to such a great degree that we are no longer bothered by the desires and lusts of the physical lower self, and we don't even think about them. We don't even feel any lack from that lower place. We are feeling wholeness and completeness, and that's why it doesn't even come to our mind to pray for those physical things. When we're praying only for the completion and the wholeness of Hashem's light being revealed in the whole universe, right? And so we're praying for the sake of Hashem, which is called b'msirut nefesh, selfless prayer. And that type of prayer fulfills Hashem's will in the greatest way. That's the intention Hashem had in creating the world. And so now the relationship between us and Hashem shifts between, instead of us being the receiver and Hashem being the giver, Hashem becomes the receiver and we become the giver, because we are giving Hashem this tremendous pleasure, and we are fulfilling Hashem's wish and His intention, manifesting His intention in creating the world and the universe by praying in this way. And so now the Hashem is now shifted from being the aspect of the male, the aspect of the giver, which is, Rabbi Nachman said, the same aspect as the hidden. The hidden, when you have hidden and revealed, the hidden aspect is always the male aspect, and it's always the chesed aspect, it's always the giving aspect, whereas the revealed aspect, nekevat sovev gaver, is the aspect of the female, it's the aspect of the receiver is the revealed aspect. And so now that Hashem has shifted in our relationship with Hashem from being the male and from being the hidden to being the female, the receiver, and the revealed, so those aspects of Hashem, those aspects in divine consciousness that were hidden beyond our grasp beforehand, which is, Rabbi Nachman said, paralleling those aspects in the Torah that were hidden from us beforehand, now become revealed. And so that those secrets of the Torah are now revealed to us. We are able to grasp them, we are able to contain them from that place much deeper, much greater, and beyond, transcending this physical dimension. Right? We blacked out the physical dimension, and now we're experiencing something much greater. And all of that is now contained and received. Those great secrets that were transcending the physical experience now can be experienced by us at the end of this formula. And in those secrets of the Torah, and in that level of divine consciousness, is contained the essence of light, is contained the Ohr HaGanuz. And so now Rabbi Nachman, at the end of the Torah, let's see what he gives us here. Another representation of this formula. Otchet, let's read it inside. Zot Torah shayach al pasuk einai b'ne'emne eretz. This Torah that we learned in this formula applies to the pasuk in Tehillim that says, einai b'ne'emne eretz l'shevet imadi. I don't have the whole pasuk in front of me here. One second. It's a pasuk in Tehillim Kuf Aleph. Pasuk in Tehillim Kuf Aleph. And it's pasuk Vav. The pasuk says, "Einai b'ne'emne eretz l'shevet imadi, holech b'derech tamim, hu yisharteni." My eyes are upon the trustworthy, and the faithful of the land, of the earth, to have them at my side. L'shevet imadi, to have them at my side. Holech b'derech tamim hu yisharteni. he that goes in the way of Pnimiyut, in the way of perfection, he that goes in the path of perfection, of completion, of wholeness, will serve me. Okay, that's what the pasuk means. Now let's see what Rabbi Nachman explains here. Zot Torah shayach al pasuk einai benemne eretz. So, what do these words in the pasuk represent? Einai, says Rabbi Nachman, ze bechinot daat, kemo shekatuv vatipakachna einei shnehem. Gam daat em 10 shemot havaya, gematria shne pe'amim ayin, kayadua. So Rabbi Nachman says that einai, my eyes are upon the faithful of the earth. So my eyes, the eyes of a person represent the Daat, the consciousness, the awareness. How do we know this? Where do we see in the Torah that it's referring to Daat with the word eyes, Einaim? And it says that in Bereshit about Adam and Chava. It says that their eyes, the eyes when they ate from the tree of Daat, of knowledge, it says that their eyes were opened. Okay? Their eyes were open, and that's a different state of consciousness that they now had received. And so we see that the eyes, it doesn't just mean the pasuk is not telling us that they open their eyes, right? It's telling us about a certain state of consciousness. So we see the eyes referred to as the state of consciousness of a person, which is very similar to the way that Arizal explains that the eyes are the aspect of Chokhmah, because the Chokhmah is also, many times you have words in the Torah that are used interchangeably between the different aspects of Chokhmah, Bina, and Daat, which are aspects of consciousness. They're all aspects of consciousness. And so the Arizal teaches us that the eyes are the aspect of Chokhmah, which is fine, because that's also in the Chabad, in the consciousness of a person. And so here, Rabbi Nachman says the eyes are the aspect of Daat, and they represent that. With your eyes, you're able to become aware. So it's at first you have the aspect of Chachma, and then you have the aspect of Daat, that awareness that comes from your vision, from your perspective. That's what the perspective is all about. And so that's one raya, that's one proof Rabbi Nachman gives us that the eyes are the Daat, or the awareness, the consciousness. Another point of connection between the two, Rabbi Nachman says that we know that the Daat, Kabbalistically, is made up of two parts. It's made up of chesedim and gevurot, as the Arizal teaches us. The Daat is made up of five energies, or five aspects of chesed, of kindness, 5 chesedim, and it's also made up of, on the left side, 5 aspects of judgment energy, or which in that high place is not really a judgment energy, but it's called gevurah nonetheless, a more constricted, more limited energy. So altogether it's made up of 10 points. It's made up of 5 chesedim and 5 gevurot, 5 lights of kindness and 5 lights of judgment, or 5 constricted lights on the left side and 5 expanded lights on the right side. And they're represented, the names of Hashem that represent these aspects in the Daat, that make up the Daat, are Yud Kei Vav Keis. And so you have on the right side of the Daat 5 Yud Kei Vav Keis that represent the 5 Chasadim, the 5 expanded lights, and you have 5 Yud Kei Vav Keis on the left side of the Daat, which represent the 5 constricted lights, the 5 gevurot. And so the 5 times Yud Kei Vav Kei has the numerical value of 130, which is the gematria, the numerical value of I. And so if you look at the 10 Yud Kei Vav Keis, 5 on the right side, 5 on the left side, that make up the Daat, so you have Ayin, 1 eye on the right side, right? That's the 5 Yud Kei Vav Keis on the right side that have the numerical value of Ayin, 130. And then you have an eye on the left side, the left eye in the Daat, because you have another 5 Yud Kei Vav Keis on the left side that also have the numerical value of 130, which is Ayin. So you have Ayin and Ayin. And so these 2 eyes, you see in the Daat, two eyes. And that's because really, when a person sees something, he doesn't really see something unless he's aware of what he's seeing, which is a very, very important point. Even scientifically, they have found to be true that a person can see thousands in every moment, in any given moment, a person's eyes see thousands and thousands of bits of information at once. And you're only consciously aware of 5 to 7 bits of information out of those thousands and thousands of bits of information that you are seeing in every given moment. And so when the Torah tells us that a person should not steer after their eyes and after their hearts, it doesn't really mean here about seeing things that are negative. It's about where is your awareness, because two people can be looking at the same thing, and one person sees things that are not aligned with the Torah and the mitzvot, and the other person sees a completely different picture. He can see other things going on in the same place at the same time that are completely connected to Hashem, and he's connecting him to Hashem. And so it's all about where's your awareness. And a person doesn't really see unless he's aware, unless that's what his Daat is connected to, unless that's what he's aware of right now. And that's why Rabbi Nachman also says in other places that a person's eyes are seeing tremendously amazing miracles in each and every moment. He says that a person sees angels, and a person can see all of us. It doesn't, people say that, only holy tzaddikim, only people that are worthy can see spiritual things that are happening. Like the Arizal was known to be able to see all of these things. He could know just from the forehead of a person all of his past lives and what he needed to rectify and what he needed to be mitaken, and what would be his future and what was his past. And Arizal could see the souls of tzaddikim walking around us and surrounding us, and he could see angels, and he could see all of these things. So the Rebbe Nachman explains that we all can see this, and we all are seeing this constantly, but we're not aware of it because we're not in that state of Daat. And so what is the ability to really see something is the knowledge that you saw it, the awareness that you have seen that thing. And that's when you're grasping it and you're through your vision. But there are so many things that are going by in front of your eyes in each and every given moment that you're not even aware of, and that's why we don't think we're seeing them, but we are seeing them. And so this is very important, what Rabbi Nachman is giving us here, this understanding that the eyes are the Daat, because really vision only is to the extent that you have Daat of that vision, that your awareness is connected to that thing that you're sensing through your eyes. Otherwise, you're not really seeing it if you're not aware of it. Next word in the pasuk. So we said, Einai b'neim ne'aretz, my eyes are upon those faithful of the land. B'neim ne means those that are faithful. Says Rabbi Nachman, זה בחינת Aharon, כמובן במדרש שוחר טוב, ואהרון הוא בחינת משפט. כמו שכתוב, ונשא אהרון את משפט בני ישראל. Aharon is the one that is faithful. Okay, Aharon is the aspect that is faithful, and Aharon is also the aspect of the mishpat, the aspect of judgment, because Aharon, we know, has the breastplate, the choshen mishpat, on his heart, and that's the aspect of judgment. The choshen mishpat, the breastplate, is all about the judgment of Bnei Israel, and that's what would clarify and bring to clarity in every doubt, in every situation, how to act. That's what a clear judgment and a clear assessment of yourself is to be, right? That's the practice Rabbi Nachman taught us in this Torah, is that a person should clearly judge themselves, knowing what and how they should be acting. Okay, and then and that's what the pasuk says. V'nasa Aharon et mishpat bnei Israel, that Aharon is the one that carries the judgment of the Bnei Israel. Whereas he carries it on the Choshim. Eretz, my eyes are to the faithful of the land. Eretz, the land, as we know from earlier in the Torah, is the aspect of Yira. It's the aspect of fear. Okay, so what we're doing here is we know that Eretz is the aspect of fear because Eretz is Malchut. Like the pasuk Rabbi Nachman brought earlier in the Torah, Eretz yare'ah v'shakata. Right? So the land was filled with fear and awe and was silent from that awe. And so Eretz is the aspect of fear. And so now let's take the first three words of the pasuk that we just explained, and we already see how the formula is coming together. Einai benem ne aretz. Einai benem ne eretz. My eyes are to the faithful of the land. Einai, my eyes, said Rabbi Nachman, is the Daat. Benem ne is the judgment. Benem ne is those that are faithful, and that's Aharon, and Aharon is the aspect of the judgment of Bnei Israel, and that's the self-assessment. Aretz is the Malchut, it's the fear. And so the fear is being elevated, lifted up, and reconnected to Daat, to its source, to the Einayim, to the eyes, through the judgment, through the self-assessment of oneself. Lashevet imadi, that's the next part of the pasuk, right? Hashem says that they should dwell with me. Lashevet imadi. They should dwell with me, says Rabbi Nachman, ze bechinot Sinai, shiflut, eshkonet daka, kanal. So one of the aspects, now that you have brought the Malchut to the Daat, now we have to go deeper in that Daat. And there are two levels in that Daat. The first level of Daat is Sinai, Har Sinai. It's Har Sinai, we're speaking about the characteristic of Har Sinai is humility. And that's how that humility allows us to contain this vast amount of Torah knowledge. And so Sinai is humility. And the Torah, there's a pasuk that says, Eshkonet daka, a pasuk in Yeshayahu that says that Hashem says that I will dwell with those that are humble. And this is the famous Gemara that says, Hashem says, a person who has pride, a person who is haughty, a person who has hubris, Hashem says, I cannot live in the same world as him. I cannot live under the same roof as him, right? And the pasuk here in Yeshayahu, Eshkonet daka, proves this. This is proof to this idea that Chazal teach us in the Gemara, that Eshkonet daka, Hashem dwells only with those that are humble, that those that have dissolved their ego. And so that's the aspect of Sinai. The characteristic of Sinai is that humility. And like we said throughout the Torah, a few times, the famous Chazal, the Gemara teaches us, Umimidbar matana, the pasuk in the Torah that says, from the desert they received a present. Okay, that's the literal translation, even though that's not the meaning of the pasuk. But the Chazal give us the drasha, the Chazal explained that to mean that from humility, when a person makes himself like a desert, deserted from anything, he's empty, right? That's what humility is all about. He's emptied himself from the ego. Then matana, then the Torah is given to him as a present. That's the aspect of Sinai. And so this is Eshkonet daka. That's what it means, that Hashem dwells on those that have emptied themselves from the ego, those that are humble. And so that's what it means here in the pasuk, Lashevet imadi, that they should dwell with me, meaning that through humility, through Sinai, which is that first aspect of Torah consciousness, right? The Daat, through humility, they merit this Sinai. They will merit to dwell with me through that humility. And to dwell with me means that the whole Torah dwells with you. That Hashem, meaning the whole Torah, is contained within your knowledge, within your memory, within your consciousness. Those that go in the way of perfection will serve me. So says Rabbi Nachman, those that go in the way of perfection. What's the way of perfection? Who are those that go in the way of perfection? The way of Pnimiyut, of wholeness. זה בחינות תפילה, בחינת אברהם כנ"ל, כמו שכתוב, יתהלך לפניי ויהיה תמים. This is the aspect of Avraham that was called perfect, whole, complete. Like Hashem says to him in Bereshit, יתהלך לפניי, go before me, ויהיה תמים, and be perfect, be whole, be complete, have integrity. Okay? And so the aspect of Avraham we know from this Torah is the aspect of prayer. That's the kindness that Hashem does for us to give us this opportunity to connect to Him and have this relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam. The aspect of Avraham is the aspect of kindness, the aspect of chesed, which is prayer. And so those that go in the way of perfection, the way of wholeness, are those that are going in the way of Avraham. These are those that are praying to Hashem in this heightened, greater state of selfless prayer. Hu yisharteni, they will serve me. What does it mean? What is that referring to? That's the final part of the formula. Ze bechinat sitrei Torah. This alludes to the secrets and the mysteries of the Torah. Ze bechinat hu, bechinot olam haba. So bechinat, how do we know why they will serve me is the aspect of the secrets of the Torah? So he says, because we have two experiences of Hashem. We have Hashem, the experience of Hashem as the transcendent one, and we have the experience of Hashem as the one who is present. Okay, this is very, very, very common throughout the Torahs of Rabbi Nachman. In fact, you may say that all of the Torahs in the Likutey Moharan are based on this premise, that on these two ways of connecting to Hashem. Okay, one way of seeing these two aspects is Yira and Ahava. Another way of calling them is Kuchabichu and Shchinte. Yira and Ahava, fearing Hashem and loving Hashem. The Zohar teaches us that the two wings through which we are able to lift and bring all of our service of Hashem to affect change in the higher spiritual realm and all of the olamot are the right wing is the wing of Ahava, loving Hashem, and the left wing is the wing of fearing Hashem. And in Chassidut, the Baal Tanya speaks about it, but Rabbi Nachman speaks about it many times throughout Likutey Moharan in different ways, so that it keeps every time giving us another level of clarity of what these two aspects are. It's meditating, when you meditate on how transcendent Hashem is, how far out beyond grasp Hashem is, how Hashem is infinite and great and eternal, and that type of contemplation, that type of hidbonenut brings us to experience awe of Hashem. That's yira. When we contemplate how Hashem is absolutely present, and Hashem is right here, right now, in this exact spot that I'm standing, that I'm sitting, primarily. This spot is primarily occupied by the Ribono Shel Olam. I'm only here as a second thought. Okay, and so when you feel that closeness of Hashem, that brings you to tremendous love, tremendous oneness, and experience of connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. And that's the contemplating the presence of Hashem. And so Rabbi Nachman calls it in the Likutey Moharan, in some places, the aspects of Ayeh and Milo. Ayeh is how the angels, right? We say that angels in the Keter of Musaf and Shabbat, they say, where is Hashem, that I may serve Him, that I may sanctify His name? Ayeh mekom kevodo leha aritzo. Right? So even the angels that are so close to Hashem recognize that Hashem is beyond their grasp, that Hashem is nowhere to be found, meaning it's impossible. Obviously Hashem is everywhere, but even though He's everywhere, they recognize that even though they're supposed to be really close to Hashem and they're constantly surrounded by Hashem's presence and they're constantly saturated by Hashem's light, but Hashem's essence is impossible to grasp. Hashem is beyond. Hashem is infinitely transcendent. And that's Ayeh. Whereas Melo, Chol Haaretz Kevodo, Hashem's presence fills the world, means that even in the tiniest detail of existence, even that tiniest part of the universe, every tiny detail and every tiny part and even the darkest reaches of the universe are completely saturated and filled with the light of Hashem. And where you are in that exact spot is completely filled with Hashem's light. And you have to combine the two. Rabbi Nachman teaches us, you have to combine these two ways the yira and the ahava. Rabbi Natan in the Likutey Halachot explains that all of the types of idol worship and all of the mistakes of the 70 nations that they fell to, all of these different ways of disconnected living and disconnection from Hashem, is because because of this mistake exactly, that they disconnect one of these ways of connecting to Hashem from the other. They disconnect one of these levels of awareness from the other. Either some of them, they see Hashem as only transcendent and only beyond grasp, and therefore, since Hashem is so far out there, so therefore Hashem is not here, and therefore they can do whatever they want, and Hashem has nothing to do with their existence. That's one way of falling to Avodah Zarah. And another way is where people only take the Meluch La'aretz, where we see a lot of this by the New Age, where God is man, and everything is filled with God, and the whole universe is only God, and therefore it is nothing wrong for them to fall to the next point. And the next point is to serve all of these different aspects of the creation and the universe and the stars and the energies that are filling the universe, because, it's all God. And even people, right? That's what Christianity is based on. Serving a man and saying that he's God, because, anyways, God is everyone and love everything, because everything is God, right? And everything is love, and so on and so forth. But the way of the Torah, complete Daat, is combining these two aspects, yira and ahava, and recognizing that as much as Hashem is infinitely present, right, Hashem is also at the same time beyond grasp and completely transcendent, and therefore you cannot fall to serving the stones and the trees, because that's not the essence of Hashem. Hashem's essence is absolutely infinitely transcendent. And even though Hashem is infinitely transcendent and beyond grasp, Hashem is absolutely present and completely involved in every detail of your experience. And so your whole life is completely connected in the presence of Hashem. Okay, and so that's the connection of the yira and the ahava, and the ahava and the yira. In some places in the Likutey Moharan, Rabbi Nachman calls it dare mala v'dare mata, because Rabbi Nachman says that a true tzaddik knows how to show the people that have served Hashem their whole life that it didn't even begin to grasp the smallest point of what Hashem really is. They didn't even begin to truly serve Hashem, because Hashem is infinite, and there are infinite levels of serving Hashem. And at the same time, that same tzaddik is only a tzaddik if he can at the same time show and teach those people that are completely far from Hashem and disconnected from Hashem, and in a place of complete darkness, that even where they stand, there's nothing but Hashem, and Hashem is absolutely with them. And just in a moment of decision, deciding to focus on Hashem, they can reconnect. And so these are the two aspects of yira and ahava, and the connection between the two that we see interwoven throughout all the Torahs of the Likutey Moharan. Now in this Torah, we see how it applies in this Torah as well. In the formula that we have in this Torah, the Sinai and the Ohr HaGanuz, the two states of Torah knowledge or Torah consciousness, divine consciousness, are these two aspects. The aspect of Sinai, right? The aspect of Sinai, having the whole Torah contained in your awareness, in your knowledge, in your memory, that's the aspect of Hashem being absolutely present. Eshkonet daka, Hashem dwelling with those that are humble. Hashem is right here with you right now. And then the aspect of the Olam Haba, of the next world, the secrets of the Torah, the mysteries of the Torah, those aspects of divine consciousness of Hashem being infinitely transcendent, is the aspect of Ayeh. It's the aspect of fearing Hashem because of the tremendous awe of how great Hashem is. But what's the genius in the way Rabbi Nachman gave over this Torah and the way he presented this formula is that in the Sinai, which the way Rabbi Nachman is explaining now, the Sinai is representing Hashem being absolutely present. Rabbi Nachman has already combined it with Hashem, with the awe and with the fear. And that's why you see at that point of the formula, you're experiencing tremendous awe of Hashem's greatness, and at that place, and from that humility, you're experiencing Hashem being absolutely present. And in the Sitri Torah and the secrets of the Torah, the higher part, the next part, the second level of divine consciousness, which is Hashem being absolutely transcendent, right? The secrets of the Torah. And Rabbi Nachman combined that already with Hashem being absolutely present. And that's why you are downloading at that point, you are downloading all these secrets of the Torah that were beforehand concealed, beforehand they were hidden from you, now they've become revealed. Now you are able to grasp them. And so that's the genius of Rabbi Nachman, showing you these 2 points, how in each one of them, in the chesed there's the gevurah, and in the gevurah there's the chesed. In the yira there's the ahava, and in the ahava there's the yira. In the melo chol haaretz, the presence of Hashem, you're experiencing Hashem's transcendence, and in Hashem's transcendence, you're experiencing Hashem's presence, because this is what's called a complete unification of the two. It's not that just you take 2 separate ways of consciousness and you try to combine them. The way that they're really combined is one in a wholesome, complete experience of having these 2 working harmoniously, is that when you see in each one of them how the other one fits into each one of them, right? The male aspect in the female, and the female aspect in the male, the fear and the love and the fear. And so that's the way Rabbi Nachman presents this Torah. And you only realize it when you pay a little bit of attention to the way he presented it. And so that's what he says here. So he says, Hu yisharteni, he will serve me. So who, there are 2 aspects in experiencing Hashem. We have the aspect where we call Hashem Ata, you, and we're speaking to Hashem in front of us, like you speak to a person, you, and that's the experience of Hashem being infinitely present. And then you have the aspect of speaking about Hashem, who, him, he, and that's in that language you're speaking about Hashem where he's hidden, or he is not in front of me. Why is he hidden? Why is he not in front of me? Because you're experiencing how Hashem is infinitely transcendent. And that's what you have in the brachot also, right? You have in the brachot, you have the aspect where you're speaking to Hashem and experiencing him in front of you, ata, and then you have times where you speak in the brachot and the tefillot of Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, and it sounds like he's not in front of you, because you're recognizing how infinitely transcendent he is, even though he's infinitely present. And so the word who, as opposed to who means him, he, as opposed to ata, you, who represents Hashem being infinitely transcendent, and that's what we said is the secrets of the Torah. And ata, you, would be the revealed part of the Torah, or the Sinai aspect of the Torah knowledge. And so when it says in the pasuk, Hu yisharteni, he will serve me, meaning that this is the aspect of the secrets of the Torah that are transcendent, that are now being experienced by him through his service of me, and in his service of me. Okay, and so that's the end of this Torah, and let's just read here what he says at the end. Baruch habocher ba'adat mimana asher adku azaranu lishma pilaot kaele al ma mareh rabba b'barchana. So this part in Likutey Moharan, we have finished explaining. Rabbi Nachman finished all the Torahs that he gives on the stories of Rabba bar Chana from the Gemara and Masechet Baba Batra. And so this is a beautiful poetic it's poetry that Rabbi Natan brings here at the end of this Torah, praising Hashem that we merited to bring all of these Torahs on the stories of Rabbi bar Chana and explain all of them. Baruch habocher ba'adat mimana she'atko azaranu nishma pilaot kaele al mamareh Rabba bar Chana. Thank you, Hashem, and blessed is Hashem who shows us and helped us until now to hear these tremendous wonders on these words and on these Torahs of Rabbi bar Chana. Come and see how great is the power of this and the strength of this great tree, okay, which is something, an expression that is influenced by what we saw in this Torah, that the great tree is the secrets of the Torah. In the permission, with the permission of our great King, with the permission of Hashem, he should constantly bring to you these beautiful words of Torah. The tremendous good and sweetness that is hidden in these holy words of the lions of the higher realm, of the yeshiva shalmala, of the higher chambers. Those that would clean out the fields. Okay, this is a Kabbalistic term for the tzaddikim that purify the world, and they clean the Malchut. They separate all of the forces of darkness from the surrounding the Malchut. So they're called those that take care of cleaning up the field. That in their words are hidden the tremendous holy advice that are drawn from the Torah of Atika Setima, the Torah of the Keter, the Torah of the highest, the Torah of the ancient one, the Torah of the Torah, the hidden Torah, the secrets of the Torah. Come and see, or go and see the wonders of Hashem, the actions of Hashem, the creations of Hashem. His ways are wondrous. There's the great is big and it is great and powerful, this tree. And it reaches the high heavens, and it sits at the end of the ground and reaches the high heavens. In Beisagya vechezve yae, its shade is great, and its appearance is beautiful. Shim'u techin nafshechem, hear and be filled with life. May your souls hear these words and be filled with life. And he will draw the waters of salvation from the springs of you will draw the waters of joy and happiness from the springs of salvation. And Bezrat Hashem will begin Torah 16 in the next shiur.